Hello everyone, it's time for another Godzilla review, and for this one we're diving into the third branch of Toho Godzilla films. This is the first of 6 movies of the Millennium era series, which ran from 1999 to 2004. The 24th film in the franchise, Godzilla 2000, also known as Godzilla 2000 Millennium, or in Japanese, Gojira Nisen Millenniamu, disregards all of the preceding Showa and Heisei movies except for the original 1954 film. Thus, we dispense with the need for any explanation of what Godzilla is or where he came from. This is simply a world in which Godzilla exists and must be dealt with when he comes ashore. This movie introduces a Godzilla Prediction Unit. They're sort of like tornado hunters, who use a plasma detector to determine when Godzilla's nearby. They seek to warn people about Godzilla's approach, but also to study Godzilla as a living organism. This group clashes with another organization, the Crisis Control Intelligence Agency, which wants to destroy Godzilla. When Godzilla starts attacking Japan's nuclear energy plants, the leaders of these two groups butt heads over what to do. Meanwhile, there's almost always a meanwhile, isn't there? A meteorite has crashed into the ocean. When it's investigated, it rises to the surface and reveals itself to be not a meteorite, but a UFO, which draws energy from light. For some reason, the UFO has it out for Godzilla. I'm not totally sure why, unless it just wants to steal Godzilla's regenerative DNA, so it goes after him, leading to a surprisingly unpredictable showdown. I've come away from this first Millennium-era film with mixed feelings, and as has been the case other times, I feel like I need to make a distinction between the elements that are part of the original Japanese version and what was added by the English dub, which is what my mom and I watched. A lot of the things that made me roll my eyes here originated with the English language script and the dubbing. The main human protagonist is the head of the Godzilla Prediction Unit, played by Takehiro Murata, who had supporting roles in Godzilla and Mothra: The Battle for Earth and Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. He's a good guy, and not as goofy as some of the other male leads in the franchise have been. He operates the mobile unit with his daughter, and they're joined by a journalist who wants to get a winning photo of Godzilla. I have a pretty good feeling these three are likable characters in the original Japanese. The father and daughter are close, and naturally, when the journalist, an outsider, comes into the picture, the little girl doesn't like having her there, but gradually they start to bond with each other. It's a nice human story, not overdone and not overcomplicated by having too many other characters. Unfortunately, for a good deal of it, thanks to the dubbing, the little girl comes across as bratty and the journalist is annoying. The script also has some wonky attempts at comic relief. This is a subjective thing, either you find the attempts funny or you don't. Most of the humor, well, it's not terribly unfunny, but it's so random. And then there's the usual amusing incongruity between what we see and the voice that we hear. Do dubbing actors get to see footage from the film before or while they record their part? Because I would think the line reading wouldn't be so off if they could see how the person on screen is acting. The main human conflict is the feud between the Godzilla Prediction Unit and Crisis Control, specifically its head, played by Hiroshi Abe. Everything about this character, from his sardonic expressions to his black trench coat, plus the dubbing actor's deep-voiced deadpan delivery, screams bad guy. I'm not sure how much of that was intentional, if he was supposed to be a hammy villain, or if it just comes across as an exaggeration. There's a lot of cheese in this movie, some of it coming from the script, and some of it no doubt coming from the time period when it was made, but some of it also coming from the heavy use of special effects, including some digital effects for Godzilla. On the one hand, some of the effects are a big improvement compared to previous Toho Godzilla films, and if you don't scrutinize too closely, they're fine. But I feel they might have overdone it in a few spots. It gets to the point sometimes where even the stuff that I know is real looks fake somehow, and that's never a good sign. We've got a new series, which means a new look for Godzilla and a new actor in the suit, Tsutomu Kitagawa, who plays the role for the first of 5 times. We get a very good introduction to this new Godzilla in the pre-credit prologue. It's dark, mysterious, intimidating, not quite big and bombastic like in the Heisei films, and Godzilla as a whole is gradually revealed. We see his teeth, his eye, his dimly lit figure, a destructive swipe of his tail. I was eager to see what the Millennium Godzilla would look like, but I appreciated the way they built up the suspense here, if only for a little while. When we do get a good look, the first change I notice is those spikes! They've been lengthened, multiplied, sharpened, and given snazzy purple tips. You know what? This design, with the jaggedness even extending to the neck, kinda reminds me of Space Godzilla. The head is the other noticeable difference, and I gotta say, while the jury's still out for me on the body design, so far, from just this first impression, I prefer the Heisei head design for Godzilla's close-ups. That was just such a classic look. The atomic breath is different too, at least that's what I think is happening here. It's not set in stone, I guess, that atomic breath has to be blue or bluish-white, but it's pretty unusual to see it in different colors. Meanwhile, oh yeah, there's that UFO. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's there. It's not tremendously exciting, especially as the minutes go by and we don't see anyone or anything come out of it. But just when I got to thinking that these aliens were just a bunch of hackers, how classically late 90s of them, they beam down some gold glitter, oh yeah, and take on a physical form. This thing, which... Okay, is anyone else reminded of Independence Day? Is it just me, or is there a bit of a resemblance? But hey, he's not done yet. The alien species adapts even further, and now we end up with some kind of alien Godzilla hybrid monster that is known as Orga. This name wasn't used in the movie, but just when I was asking, hey, what was that thing called anyway, I saw the name in the end credits. I had no clue where it originated, but the internet informs me that the name comes from Organizer G2, which itself is a derivative of the name the humans give Godzilla's special healing property, Regenerator G1. Anyway, it's around this point in the movie that things really start to get bizarre. Orga does this thing, I don't like it. Make it stop. And if that's not weird enough, then Godzilla just kinda dives right in there, and this is kind of gross. It's confusing, but mostly gross. Godzilla movies usually get wacky and over the top at the end, and at this point, yes, I've come to expect it. Sometimes an over-the-top ending can improve the whole experience, especially if the movie that came before was on the lackluster side. But sometimes it's just completely bonkers, and I don't know what to think. This is one of those times. Godzilla! Godzilla 2000 has some strangeness and some corniness, but also some really good moments, so I'd say it's a pretty fun time all around. And it has a fine score, orchestral with occasional synthesizer, composed by Takayuki Hattori, who also did the music for Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. And hey, there's some Ifukube thrown in there too, at an optimal moment. Godzilla's actually absent for a good chunk of the movie while the focus shifts to the UFO, but he comes back at just the right time, his return heralded with Ifukube's theme. Yes! Speaking of Ifukube, I heard Rodan's theme play at the very end of this movie when Godzilla starts wasting the city. That was unexpected. What's the story with that? So right now, I'm on the fence with this one, which is a familiar place to be. I remember being on the fence with Godzilla vs. Biollante. It was my first Heisei film, and I wasn't used to the Heisei style and the various elements that Heisei like to play around with. I do feel a little differently toward Biollante now that I've seen all of the Heisei films, so maybe that will be the case with this movie. I do know that a lot of fans love this one and consider it a favorite. It got an American theatrical release, the first Japanese Godzilla to get one since 1984, and the last before 2016, and for many this was their first Japanese Godzilla movie, so it holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts. I am curious, as always, to hear what all of you think of this one, so go ahead and share your thoughts on it in the comments down below if you like. I look forward to reading them. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching!